Chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Practice. The Blessed Lord said, "A person who fulfills obligatory action without depending on the result of the action is a renouncer and a yogi, not the one who is without a fire ceremony or who lacks physical activity." That which the authorities define as renunciation, know it as applied yoga, O Arjuna Pandava. Indeed, no one becomes a yogi without an intention for renunciation. For a philosophical man who strives for yoga expertise, cultural activity is recommended. For one who has mastered yoga already, the tranquil, reserved method is the means. Indeed, when having discarded all motivations, a person feels no attachment to attractive objects nor to performance, he is said to be proficient in yoga practice. One should elevate his being by himself. One should not degrade the self. Indeed, the person should be the friend of himself, or he could be the enemy as well. The personal energies are the friend of the person by whom those energies are subdued. But for one whose personality is not self-possessed, the personal energies operate in hostility like an enemy. The directive part of a self-controlled, peaceful person remains composed in the cold, heat, pleasure, pain, and also in honor and dishonor. The yogi who is satisfied with self-knowledge and realized experience, who is stable and who has conquered his sensual energy, who regards a lump of clay, a stone, or gold in the same way, is said to be disciplined in yoga. A person who is indifferent to friend, acquaintance, and enemy, who is evenly disposed to enemies and kinsmen, who exhibits balanced judgment towards saintly people or sinful ones, is to be regarded with distinction. In isolation, the yogi should constantly concentrate on the self. Being alone, he should be of controlled thinking, of subdued self without desire and without possessions. In a clean place, fixing for himself a firm seat which is not too high, not too low, with a covering layer of cloth, antelope skin, and kusha grass underneath. Being there, seated in a posture, having the mind focused, the person who controls his thinking and sensual energy should practice the yoga discipline for self-purification. Holding the body, head, and neck in balance, steady without movement, gaze at the tip of the nose, not looking in any other direction. With a pacified self, free from fears, with a vow of sexual restraint firmly practiced, with mind controlled, and having me in his thought, with his mind concentrated, he should sit, being devoted to me as the supreme objective. Disciplining himself continuously as described, the yogi who has subdued mind experiences spiritual security. He achieves the extinction of mundane affinity as he simultaneously attains the highest living state. He achieves an existential position with me. But Arjuna, yoga practice does not consist of eating too much, and it is not the practice of not eating at all, nor the habit of sleeping too much, nor staying awake either. For a person who is regulated in eating and in leisure, who is disciplined in the endeavor of duties, who is moderate in sleeping and waking, for him, the yoga practice is a distress remover. When, with tightly controlled thought, he is attentive to his spiritual core self alone, being freed from desires and from all cravings, he is said to be proficient in yoga. This comparison is recalled. A lamp in a windless place which does not flicker, and a yogi of controlled thought who performs disciplines in relation to the spiritual self. At the place where being restrained by yoga practice, thinking stops, and at the place where the yogi perceives the self by the self, he is satisfied in the self. He knows the whereabouts of that continuous happiness which is grasped by the intellect and which is beyond the mundane senses. And being established, he does not shift from that reality. And having attained that, he thinks there is no greater attainment. Being established in that, he is not drawn away even by deep distress. Let it be understood that this separation from emotional distress is the mastery of yoga. This yoga is to be practiced with determination and without depressing thought. Abandoning without exception all desires which are produced from motivation and completely restraining the total sensual energy by the mind, little by little, with a firm grasp by the intelligence, he should withdraw from sensual activity. Having made his mind to be fixed on the spiritual self, he should not think of anything. To wherever the unsteady, drifty mind wanders, from there he should restrain it. He should direct the mind to control it in the self. Indeed, being psychologically pacified, the yogi, whose emotions are calmed, who is on the spiritual plane, who is freed from bad tendencies, experiences superior happiness. Applying the yoga disciplines constantly to the self, the yogi being freed from faults, easily contacting the spiritual plane, attains endless happiness. With a spirit existing in every creature, and with every creature based on a spirit, a person who is proficient in yoga perceives the same existential arrangement in all cases. To him who sees me in all forms, and who sees all creatures in reference to me, I am never out of range, and he is never out of my view. Although moving in various circumstances, the yogi who is established in that harmony, who honors me as being existentially situated in all creatures, remains in touch with me. He who, in reference to himself, sees the same faculties in all cases, regardless of pleasure or painful sensations, he, O Arjuna, is considered as the highest yogi. Arjuna said, O slayer of Madhu, due to a shifty vision, I do not see this standard position of a comparatively similar view which is yielded by this yoga practice declared by you. Unsteady indeed is my mind, O Krishna. It is troublesome, impulsive, and resistant. I think that controlling it is comparable to controlling the wind. It is very difficult to accomplish. The Blessed Lord said, Undoubtedly, O powerful man, the mind is difficult to control. It is unsteady. By practice, however, O son of Kunti, by indifference to its responses, also it is restrained. For the undisciplined person, yoga is difficult to master. This is my opinion. For the disciplined one, however, by endeavor, it is possible to acquire the skill by an effective means. Arjuna said, What about the undisciplined person who has faith? Having deviated from yoga practice, having not attained yoga proficiency, what course does he take, O Krishna? He is not like a faded cloud lost from both situations. Is he not like a faded cloud lost from both situations, like being without a foundation? O Almighty Krishna, he is baffled on the path of spirituality. You can, O Krishna, remove this doubt of mine fully. Besides you, no other remover of doubt exists here. The Blessed Lord said, O son of Pritha, It is realized that neither here on earth nor above in the celestial regions does the unaccomplished yogi lose his skill. Indeed, O dear Arjuna, no performer of virtuous acts goes down permanently into misfortune. After obtaining the celestial places where the virtuous souls go, having lived there for many, many years, the fallen yogi is born into the social circumstances of the purified and prosperous people. Alternately, he is born into a family of enlightened people, but such a birth is very difficult to attain in this world. In that environment, he is inspired with the cumulative intellectual interest from a previous birth. And from that time, he strives again for yoga perfection, O dear son of the Kurus. Indeed, by previous practice, he is motivated, even without conscious desire. He who persistently inquires of yoga instinctively sees beyond the Veda, the spoken description of the spiritual reality. From a steady effort and a consistently controlled mind, the yogi who is thoroughly cleansed of bad tendencies, who is perfected in many births, reaches the supreme goal. The yogi is superior to other types of ascetics. He is also considered to be superior to the masters of philosophical theory, and the yogi is better than the ritual performers. Hence, be a yogi, Arjuna. Of all yogis, the one who is attracted to me with his soul, who worships me with full faith, is regarded as being most devoted to me. That was chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. This translation by Michael Beloved is available on Amazon or at michaelbeloved.com. If you would like to read the commentary, it's an excellent commentary of the Bhagavad Gita by Michael Beloved. It is called Bhagavad Gita Explained, and it is also available on those two websites. Thanks for listening.